Plus, before we look at standards, what is important is we look at what are the standards for and who are they for, and who would be delivering the standards. And that brings us back to the teacher. Who are we teaching and what are we teaching for? And taking the, I'm going to be switching, looking at professionalism. As a teacher, you basically started seeing it as a calling, and you realize that at the end of the day, the future of our country is at stake, and the education, and the quality, and the children are being educated. And when you're taking the role to become a teacher, you commit to looking at the child as a whole, looking at the importance of that child becoming a fully functional adult in society one day. So as a teacher, you know that you're teaching those children, but who are you as a teacher? You need to decide what your role in the community is. If you're a professional within the community, it means that you are a leader in the community, and you need to stand up, speak up, and give direction. In many cases, some people would say it's moral direction that is needed in the case at the moment with the country, dysfunctional society. So as teachers, we have a role to play, and we take it very seriously. And first and foremost is the development of the child and the child's place in that society, and becoming ultimately a fully functional society. Not as teachers just being state functionaries, where you are just rolling out the norms and the standards as put out in certain documents. There's not a problem with the documentation at all. That is required. We need certain services. We need certain guidelines. We need characteristics. We need to know what qualities are needed in standards, whether it's a product or a service that we're offering. But before we get to that, we need to know that what are we teaching? Is it relevant at all times? And then we need to check, are those standards maintaining their relevance all the time? We are, as a professional, you have expert knowledge, we have curriculum knowledge, but there's also what they call pedagogical progression at the moment. Knowledge is changing at an alarming rate, and because society is changing. And the job is that you need to, as a profession, you need to keep up with the trends in education, or the education you're delivering, the standards that you are sticking to or trying to maintain as your basic guideline are going to be inadequate, irrelevant. What are schools? If they aren't actually, if schools and teachers are not actually producing and assisting the child to take his place in society, then they're impeding the child's chances to take his place in society. And the biggest person or catalyst at this rate is the teacher. The standards are there as a guideline. They are the basics that need to be done. And you have a whole host of professionals who sit down and work out SACWA and SACE. They decide what the basics are. But within a profession, you don't just stick to the basics. You need to move on and beyond that, because you have the discretion as a profession, as a professional. You're meant to be able to do problem solving. You have certain values. You have a code of ethics. So as a profession, you know that you have got to use your professional integrity, teach with dignity, and you need to be relevant at all times. I think that is the very important word here, is to be relevant at all times. So you use your standards, you stick to the standards, but you can always extend, always enrich beyond that, so that you can ensure that every child, no matter what background they come from, you can see, make sure that you meet the standards as required with our standardized testing that we have, that is ensuring that standards are met. But that's just the basics. And as a teacher, you don't just sit with the basics. You can't just take on a pre-packaged curriculum and just deliver that. That's not being professional. Being professional is taking that curriculum, engaging with it dynamically. This is the most exciting time, I think, ever in any era to be a teacher, because of what we have available at our disposal, something like this, to renew our profession and what it's about.